Hey guys, Jordan here. I just finished up an interview with Brian Roberts, a real estate photographer out of the San Francisco Bay Area. Brian's an experienced real estate photographer, and he is a solo shooter and makes six figures as a real estate photographer. Now, he shares some great actionable items on things that you can implement in your business today to get more customers, especially if you're struggling with getting new customers. So anyways, I hope you enjoy the interview. Hey guys, Jordan here with Real Estate Photography Hub, and today I am interviewing Brian Roberts, a real estate photographer out of the San Francisco Bay Area in California. Thank you so much, Brian, for taking time out of your busy day and joining me on this interview.
Thanks for having me, Jordan. How you doing?
Yeah, very good. So to start off, we're going to let the viewers or listeners know a little bit about yourself. So we're going to do some rapid fire questions. So when did you get into real estate photography?
My path was a lot like yours. I was a real estate agent first, became a real estate photographer about 5 years ago.
Very good. And are you currently part-time or full-time?
I have been full-time for about the past 4 years out of 5.
Very good. And what's been your best year so far?
Probably 2020. I think that's kind of typical if you ask a lot of us.
All right, so 2020, your best year. And from a revenue
Yeah.
perspective, ballpark estimate on your business?
I make six figures. I hit that about year 3, and it's still that. And I do that by myself.
Very good. So a six-figure producer as a solo real estate photographer, very impressive. How long did it take you to transition to full-time real estate photographer and make it a career?
Probably about a year. And that's when I figured out I couldn't serve two masters. This was doing better than real estate sales was. And so quickly after that is when I called myself full time. And it's been great.
Yeah, and how many repeat customers do you service on a regular basis to be able to produce that six-figure income that you have?
On a regular basis, I would say there's probably 30 or 40. Total, I would say it's about 100.
All right. Very good. And do you recommend jumping in full time for somebody brand new starting in real estate photography? Jumping in full time or kind of having a transition plan and starting full time or part time?
That's a tough question to answer directly because I think it all depends. It depends on how familiar that person is with the space and the people within it. It depends if they have a financial support system to be able to get themselves to full time. So I think it just really depends on the individual.
Very good. All right, so let's talk a little bit about more of your background because we have similar backgrounds. I guess, we both are. Are you still a licensed real estate photographer, real estate agent or not?
Yeah. I am, but I haven't bought or sold anything for years, but I do. I still carry my licenses really mostly just for referral deals and stuff like that. I'm still around the business. And so every now and then I'll, see an ambulance going hot into an old person's community and say, hey, I'll take a commission on that.
Yeah, it's like I get a reminder every year, every two that I got to take these tests again, and I'm like, do I want to renew it? I guess I do. But So, anyways, talk just a little bit about your background in real estate. How long were you a real estate agent, and what kind of made you transition into the real estate photography business?
I was licensed in 2012, and I was a bit rudderless at the time, and I think that is often a typical path to real estate sales.
Yeah.
I was in manufacturing before that. I knew I didn't want to go back into that. I had dealt with real estate agents a few times in buying and selling properties of my own, and thought, you know what, this is a pretty good income for not a whole lot of work. I identified that as being the case, and so I got licensed. Did it full time for 3-4 years or so. And what got me into the photography is I started shooting my own listings. And I went to the camera shop and said, hey, what do I need? It set me up with, it was a crop body Nikon. It was a D7200, I think it was. And I went, and I'd always been an amateur photographer, a musician. I've been into recording and such. And so I figured, I could figure this out. And I went to shoot my own listings, and I discovered that it was difficult, and I didn't at the time understand why. And so, me being who I am, I wanted to discover why. and I just caught the bug. I jumped into interiors photography and I started learning about it, watched a lot of YouTube, uh, made some connections, from different people who were doing it. And my photography got better and better to the point where at some point my fellow real estate agents noticed this and said, "Hey, can you shoot my listings?" And my light bulb went off. I can sell this. And it was actually pretty quickly after that, because I already had all those relationships. I'd been in the real estate world for years. I already knew all the people. And so once I kind of put myself out there that I can shoot listings, the business grew very quickly after that. And like I'd said, it was about a year later that, okay, do I do this or do I do that? And the simple fact of the matter is my phone was ringing a lot more often for photography than it was for real estate sales.
Right.
And so that's what I decided to focus on. And I'm glad I did. I have fun doing this.
Right.
This is a
Right.
great job.
And so how would you compare and contrast like your role as a real estate agent and your role as a real estate photographer?
Well, this is real estate photographer is definitely more of a grind, because real estate sales commission checks are big checks and real
Right.
estate photography checks are little checks. But I have a lot more fun doing this. I often say to people, most people who are creative and are artists never figure out a way to make a living, make a good income being creative. I
Right.
make a good income being creative. And that to me is better than any kind of sales job.
Right.
I can go out and I can be creative, and I do truly enjoy what I do. So even though it's a grind to make a similar amount of money as, say, like a real estate sales gig where you're making big checks for every closed deal, it's a lot less pressure and it's a lot more fun in the process.
Yeah, I would have to agree. I wasn't like, I transitioned out of corporate America. We were just buying properties for a hedge fund, and then that dried up really quick. So then I had to turn into a real estate agent really quick. And the one thing that I didn't really like too much, like I was pretty good at it. I remember driving around, making that transition. Still trying to bring in revenue as not, when you're trying to get your photography business off the ground, right? I'm calling like expired listings and trying to get listings, which I was able to do. But I vividly remember I'm driving to a photography appointment and I have like Mojo Sales or like these dialers going on in my car. But anyways, just like you, like the real estate photography is small checks, and then the bigger. And I think it attracts a completely different type of person. I wasn't really like the elephant hunter, right? That's why I always, because you're going to be getting these big checks as a real estate agent once you close the deals, but you're going to be doing a lot of work that you might not make any money on. And then the real estate photography, like you said, is a grind. You're making a bunch of small checks, but that really spoke to like my personality. I like to do work, and then, okay, I'm making progress. I'm getting, you're making that paycheck, right? But yeah, two completely different worlds, and
Yeah, and you're doing it while being creative and doing what you love to do, in real estate sales, you can make really good money at it, but
oh
it's
yeah,
just it's stressful, man. And like you said, sometimes you can work for months and months with somebody and it not come to fruition.
right,
You know?
yep,
And that's just not the case with real estate photography. You go and you do your work and you get paid.
yeah, yeah. So it's just it really. I think to some degree, as you might be, whoever's listening could be a real estate agent or could be a real estate photographer, but I think you got to try to figure out what speaks more to your personality, right? And what is going to make you happier, right? I've always been a techie guy. You're a creative person, so I think these are the types of individuals that can thrive, in the real estate photography. And actually, I've shot thousands of houses. You probably have too over the years, and it's still fun to me to go out there and shoot, and I'm always trying to figure out ways. So it's interesting, right? Instead of like, oh, I'm
It
selling
is
this
interesting.
house, I've sold a million houses. You know what I mean?
Right.
So anyway, so talk to us right now about, like, obviously you're a successful solo real estate photographer. Talk to us about maybe some of the challenges that you run into, and maybe how to avoid them and how you manage them, whether that's getting too much business on one day, and then how do you kind of navigate those waters?
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge that I've had as a successful individual real estate photographer is kind of like what you'd said, what happens when you get too busy. And I have in the past during my busy seasons, and I may still again this year, bring on some extra contracted help to help me shoot these jobs if I have more of them that I can handle by myself. But, at one point a couple years ago, I was thinking to expand the business, grow the business, get photographers underneath me. And I think you do that, right? I think you have other photographers who go out and shoot. Um, I found myself not really enjoying the role that put me in, though, as much as just going out and steering my own ship and being creative on my own terms. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with that if you're also satisfied with there being an income ceiling, which there obviously is going to be,
Right.
because you're only going to be able to make as much as you can make by yourself, and if you're okay with that, which I am, um, then that's fine. But those are the challenges really that I had is kind of going through that period of I've always been a business person, and I've been around small business my whole life, and I've owned small businesses and worked for small businesses, and one of the key tenets of that is you want to grow it into something that's not a small business, and you
Right.
want to be successful and you want to, have all the things. But I think as I get older, that becomes less important to me, and my
Right.
world gets smaller.
Well,
And
I would say that, a lot of people will say like bigger gotta be is more successful. I would say absolutely not. You got to do what makes you happy and what is going to make for a fulfilling life for you, what you want. Whether that's being a solo real estate photographer, maybe, small, or maybe you want to do massive things. It doesn't really matter. There's no right or wrong answer. And that's what's great about real estate photography, because you can make it what you want to make it and kind of mold it. Maybe you are that creative. Maybe you literally hate managing people, or you don't want to deal with that. You would rather like, honestly, like if it makes it for a longer, more enjoyable life for you as a solo real estate photographer, and you're making a great living. Like there's no reason why, like, oh, because I feel like in today's day and age, like people like almost want to like pressure, oh, like what defines success, right? And I think
yeah,
there's no set definition of success where you have to get to a certain amount or certain this or certain that. You got to look inward, in my opinion, and figure out what success is.
absolutely. And I think it's completely normal too for as you get older and as you get through different stages of life for that personal definition of it to change.
Right.
I know it has for me.
Yeah.
The success to me nowadays looks very, very different than what it did 10, 15, 20 years ago.
Right. And
And I hope that's going to be true 10, 15, 20 years from now. That means we're still
right.
learning and growing. You know?
Right. And it depends. Like, my priority now is like, as my kids are getting older, I want to spend time with my kids, right? And be a
Right.
present father, right? And I prioritize that way more than making more money. Like, you got to really, there's more to life than like a paycheck or money. And yeah, I think obviously, real estate photography is a great place to be because you can kind of build it what you want and have the flexibility that you want. Obviously, you got to set
Yeah.
those expectations. But I think the one thing that can be challenges is just managing that customer experience. Because obviously, I started as a solo real estate photographer, and you run into those challenges. Like, dude, I got 8 shoots today. I'm gonna deliver those, and I got 6 more tomorrow. Like, how do you manage the busy days and kind of customer expectations, just to make sure that you're creating a great customer experience so that they're coming back to use you over and over again?
Yeah. Well, first off, I wouldn't do 8 shoots in a day. I think that's crazy. And I did, just within this business, you do run into people who do that. So I've got, 6 shoots, 7 shoots. And I was like, how can you even do that? So one of the things that I am pretty big on, and one of the things that I often teach and speak to on my YouTube channel, speaking to other real estate photographers, is I want to position myself at the high end of the market. And I think that's always the better place to be than shooting 8 properties with
Right.
an HDR kind of workflow and having some engine turn them out. And, because that's less personal of a service.
Right.
And when somebody comes into town that's cheaper than you are, there go your clients to that cheaper person. But if I shoot 2 or 3 homes per day and I take a long time, if I'm generous with my time at those properties and I really feature them well, I really take the time to listen to how to market the property well, whatever that be. And I capture that and I do that well. That is what keeps the clients coming back to me. And because I'm positioning myself at the higher end of the market, my invoices are obviously going to be higher than like the HDR firms as well. So that's kind of my thing. I won't do 8 shoots in a day, and it's not because I don't want to work doing 8 shoots in a day. It's because I don't think I can do 8 shoots in a day and do them well.
Right.
My workflow and the way that I set my business up, and indeed what I charge clients for, is that I take the care with each and every shoot.
Right. And I think what you bring up is a great point, especially for it can be new or existing real estate photographers, right? You might start out and I need to just get customers, so then you price yourself pretty low, right? But then maybe you improve your skill set and you say, you know what, I want to start servicing the higher. And I think that's a smarter, more saner way, the path that you've taken versus shooting 10 shoots a day to produce the same amount of revenue that you can generate, in a couple shoots, right? So it
Right.
really just depends, like what your goals are, what are you willing to do, like what's that service look like for your customers? Can you provide great service at 10 shoots a day as a solo realist or whatever that number is? There's going to be challenges, right? And
Yeah, maybe you can, but I'm not interested in finding that
yeah,
out. I
right.
don't know. Can you? Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, but the thing is, like you somebody might be able to, but but what's right? You got to look yourself in the mirror. Like what is, what part of the real estate photography market do you want to target and go towards, right? So,
Right.
are there challenges by servicing the luxury end or the higher end market in your area?
Sure. Yeah, I think there are challenges in servicing that market in any area because, sometimes, like for instance, last week I shot a $3.5 million property and it has, um, it's two addresses on one lot. And so, I mean, there's just a lot going on with a property like
Mm,
that. And sometimes you got to come back to a property like that. Like you can't get it all done in one day or one afternoon because the light is very important with some of these little enclaves within it. When
right.
you have a property that you're charging millions of dollars for, um, those are people who are hard to impress.
Yeah.
They're the people who are looking at properties like that. They want what they do. And the other part of that is the other properties around that are listed compared to properties like that, the level of marketing is high,
Right.
with all of it on that end. None of them look bad. Like none of them have agents going through with their cell phone and shooting. They're all in there. They're using lights. They're getting good angles. They're doing virtual stuff and video. It's like that the competing properties are going to have those things. And so you need to make sure that you do those things well, to make that one stand out. Um, I tell my clients, my job is to make your listing be the best looking listing in the area. And if I don't think I can do that, then I shouldn't take the job. Now,
Mm,
that's not to be taken as something vain, like, hey, I'm the best. I would never say something like that. But what I am saying is, I'm willing to spend the time and the effort to make sure that this listing looks the best.
Right.
And I think that I think clients appreciate that, especially at the high end, they appreciate that. They
Right.
want somebody to take the time and to have the care with these listings.
Yeah, exactly. And typically, from my experiences, like the customers, not necessarily the agents, but a lot of those homeowners of those really high end homes, sometimes they're very particular. So you got to be willing to kind of go back and forth. Hey, I don't like this or that.
Right.
They might be a little bit more picky on the photos, but I think at the end of the day, the payoff is worth it. And
Yeah. No, on the really high end ones, like everything has a story. It's like it's not just like a beam of wood. It's like some
right.
timber that was dredged from some
Yeah.
frozen lake
It
in
came from the
France,
pirate
whatever.
ship
It's
of
like,
the Black Bird. No, I'm just kidding.
yeah. So everything's got a story, and
Yeah.
they'll tell them to you too.
Oh
They'll
yeah.
tell you the story of everything. King Louis the Seventh shot glass.
Yeah. Like very awesome. Sweet. Well, since you specialize in the luxury area of real estate photography, if somebody new or maybe even somebody existing, how would you recommend that they go about trying to get luxury clients?
That's a tough question because I mean, the same way I would recommend you get any clients, and that is you just have to get that first few. And I'm sure you know this. You just have to get the first few, and within any geographic area, real estate agents all know each other. They all know each other, they all work with each other, and they all trade contacts with each other.
Yeah.
And so it's just a matter of it's like it's like natural selection, right? It's just a process of get your photography good enough, get that ball rolling where you get agents recommending you to other agents, raise your prices. That helps because when you raise your prices, you automatically cut out the bottom feeders. They're not going to want to pay. They're going to want to go pay for somebody else. And just by way of doing those things, making your photography better and raising your prices to be commensurate with what your skills have become, you're going to
Hmm.
attract those clients, and when you get those clients, you're going to keep them as long as you're servicing them well.
Yeah. And have you found that you've gotten a good amount of referrals from within those circles once you get
Oh, a
in?
ton of them. Yeah. Most of the referrals I get are from within those circles. Those because those are the agents that really they're like little pods, They're not the ones that are going to like the MLS meetings and stuff. They're the ones that are going and having like breakfast with each other, and they're getting together just three or four of them around a table and talking about how they're, can carve up the world into little pieces amongst themselves. So, when you get some of those, they may not refer you out to the masses, but they're going to refer you to the other ones that are doing the high end properties
Sure.
in your area.
Sure. And what's
Yeah,
your
they set themselves apart. They're not with the rank and file real estate agents. Those ones aren't.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you what so say you have these, pretty like these luxury agents and say two of them want you on the exact same night, exact same time. How do you handle that objection as a real estate photographer?
Tell them to call each other because they know each other.
Yeah.
They can
You guys
fight
can
it out
fight
and
it
let me
out.
know which one of them won.
Is that really what you
And I
tell
have
them?
done that before too, by
Oh,
the way.
okay. Yeah. I guess they know up front, right? It's like sometimes, if you have a specific time frame, but I assume you stay pretty flexible,
Yeah,
obviously to the
you have
extent
to
that you
be,
can.
especially right now. So here in California, it's going to be raining for the next like week, and nobody wants to shoot in the rain,
Right.
and so your schedule becomes very dynamic around weather. So yeah, you have to.
Yeah. So are you finding
You just you
yourselves?
move around stuff where you can. I shot interiors of a house just earlier today, pouring rain, and I'm going to go back and shoot the exteriors. I think maybe on Sunday we'll
Uh,
have a break in the storm, so I'll do the exteriors and I'll fly the drone and then I'll put it all together. And you got to be flexible like that.
yeah. So do you like to shoot interiors when there's overcast and clouds out typically? I don't know.
It doesn't matter to me, and one of the reasons it doesn't matter to me is because I've been outsourcing my composites editing for the past couple of years.
Oh, okay.
So it's somebody else's problem. I give them the layers and
Yeah,
they spit me back an image.
they can swap out stuff if they need to. Yeah, I found that, when it's overcast outside, typically the interiors can look better just because the dynamic range isn't so high,
Sure.
it's not so bright
Yeah.
outside. So you can create some
Yeah.
really nice photos. So talk to us a little bit about your editing process. So you're a shooter. Did you used to edit your own photos?
Yeah, I did. And I always recommend people too who are just starting out, even if you're planning to outsource your editing, it's always worthwhile, I believe, to do it yourself, which I did for the first couple of years, if for no other reason, because you learn how to shoot for the edit
Yeah.
when you're there. And now you understand things like, for instance, a good one to bring up is like bloom around windows, right? So you're going to be shooting multiple layers. If you're using lights, you're going to use a flash frame for a clean window view. But then how do you get the edge of that window view to be able to composite cleanly that flash layer into it? Sometimes you should bracket that, and then just let the editor choose which exposure they want to use as the ambient exposure, or you can bracket it and they can make an HDR composite for the ambient exposure to then blend in with the flash layer. But, just giving options like that. And if you don't do your editing yourself at first, you may not even know that that could be problematic to be to have to shoot that way when you're on site. So for that reason, I think it's important that people always do their own editing at first, at least for a time. I did for a couple of years. And really, the main reason why I outsourced my composites editing, I still do most of the single frame stuff myself,
Mm.
is just because it takes the most time. It takes the most time, and I can my highest and best use is out there shooting.
Yeah.
And the other part of that is I don't like to be editing late at night. I like you. I have young kids. I have a wife. Like, I don't want to be editing all night. So when I outsourced my editing, all of a sudden I got my life back. Now I
Right.
can
Right.
now I can be with my family at night, and if I can pay the editors, and the other part of that too is the editors make less than I do. So how much of my time am I sitting in front of a computer editing versus a lot of the editors are outsourced to Asia, to India. You don't pay them as much
Right.
as us Americans with mortgages and stuff. You know what I mean? So it
Right.
makes
Right.
business sense at some point too to be doing that.
Yeah, so if a real estate photographer is watching this and maybe they're overwhelmed, they got so many shoots and they're doing their own editing, what process did you go through in order to that one day you said, "Oh, I am so tired of editing photos till 2 a.m. Like, how do I delegate this to somebody else?" What was your process and your thought process, and how would you recommend somebody do that?
Well, first off, I think I waited about a year too late. And I was doing those editing till 2 a.m., 3 a.m. just to get up and shoot all the next day for way too long. And I think the reason for that is I was not looking forward to making that jump, because I think it's easy when you get your processes down and they are what they are, especially if you're an artist like we are, you want to have control of what the final product looks like. And it takes a lot to be able to trust that process to somebody else,
Right.
and also just figuring it out. And, do I how many editors do I have to go through before I get one that is both affordable and I like the images they're producing, and how much work that I then have to do on the back end? Because I still do, I get my images back from my editors. I still make a final pass at them to tweak them to what I want it to be, and consistent with the single frame stuff that I'm editing for the same job and such. So all of those things were daunting to me. I would tell somebody just jump in and try to do it. Most editors out there and anybody with an email address tied to a website that's real estate photography, you get spammed all the time,
Right.
by
Right.
the
Right. Oh,
the
yes.
broken English. I am real estate editor. Send me 3 images and I'll do my best for free and I'll get it. Just start talking to them. You just start talking to them and see how they do. And what you'll find is most of them are better than you are at it anyway. If I could be a fly on the wall, some of these real estate editing houses, they're pretty good editors that they've got going in there, and a lot of
Yeah. So, all right. So you don't delegate all of your photos. So you do a lot of the single exposures, meaning the ones where you don't have to do windows and this kind of stuff.
right.
So you'll
Yeah,
do.
so all the exterior stuff, all the interior detail stuff, and twilights too. And the only reason I do twilights, even though those are sometimes composites, is because I enjoy doing them.
Mm.
But yeah, the just the time suck ones, which are the ones where you're using lights at the on the interior and you're compositing. Is I haven't done those for a couple of years, and I have no desire to.
Hmm. And what can somebody that wants to delegate just certain photos? Are you typically paying per photo or per job, or how does that look?
Yeah, yeah, per photo. And I pay a lot per photo, and it has to do with the whole, shooting the higher end type of clientele, higher end properties and things like
Yeah.
that. Um, it, it's an interesting point you bring up because I think this is where a lot of real estate photographers kind of are in error is they want to, oh, well, I can get this editor for 80 cents, but that's too much. I'm gonna go try to find one that does it for 40 cents. And it's like, look, you know what? I paid like $2 or $3 an image. And the reason I pay $2 or $3 an image is because at the end of the day, whether I'm paying 80 cents per image or $3 per image, it's not going to matter to me that much. And the $3 per image looks a lot better than
Yeah,
the 80
yeah.
cents per image because you have somebody who has more experience. They are using layers and they're hand blending. They understand motivational light coming across an image versus it being too flashy. And these are the types of things that you'll find. And usually it's just like us real estate photographers. If you have the chops to be going out there and shooting the luxury property, you're going to pay more for it. Same thing's true with the contracted editors. If you have the chops to be making work like that, you're going to be able to rightly charge more for it. And those are the ones that I use.
Hmm. I mean, so I do think that that's interesting, and it's something that I haven't talked to too many people because a lot of people are just, oh, throw them all this way. But yeah, you're right. Like if you got to find somebody that's going to match your style, especially if you're editing some yourself, right? Because it's going to be
Right.
like, what is this HDR over here, and I'm over here looking like this, and then the customer gets them and they start scrolling through them, and it's like, is that a different house right there? Like, I don't think that's
Right.
my listing. No, just
Yeah.
yeah,
But I think the overarching theme for all of this with me is that I probably could be making more money than I do, but I'm enough of an artist
yeah.
that I'm fine with making what I do.
Sure. And I think,
And that to me is success.
yeah, and I think back on the editing side of things, and I think some real estate photographers out there could be saving a lot of money because some of these single exposure, depending on the shot, they literally don't take very long at all. And you can just copy and paste your settings to save a
Yeah.
lot of money.
Right.
And the ones that are super time consuming, window pulls, flash, ambient, blending, all these, dude, $2 to $3 for those, and then you do the other ones yourself, you're still probably making an out better overall product than somebody that's just going to send them all over at 80 cents an image or whatever. And you're,
Exactly. Yeah. Because you're taking those single exposures out and you're absolutely right. I mean, I can blow through
so
those.
that's
So
interesting. And
can
I'm
anybody.
I'm thinking like
You,
people should
yeah.
consider that if they're that's definitely a way to save money because there might be a real estate photographer that's getting slower and like, oh my gosh, how can I save some money? Well, that could be an option for them.
And I think the way that I set myself up to do that quickly as well is when I'm shooting, let's say exteriors, I am always going to be on aperture priority and I'm going to ride my exposure compensation dial on the camera. And I typically will shoot one stop under
Mm.
because with modern cameras, they're all really good at shadow recovery,
Oh
right? So
yeah,
I'll typically shoot one stop under, and that way I know if I'm consistently shooting one stop under, that whatever kind of preset, or I won't necessarily use a preset as much as I will edit the first image, like the hero image, the main elevation shot of the front of the house. I'll edit that. And whatever that is, I'll just copy and paste those settings across all the rest of the exteriors.
right.
And I know that if I'm letting the camera decide what the exposure is, as long as I have that set up correctly and I'm shooting one stop under, most of them will fall pretty well in line,
Yeah,
and then I can just blow through it and make little tweaks to each one depending,
yeah.
after that.
And I think those that haven't experimented too much with their raw images, they just shoot and upload. It's crazy the amount of detail you can recover in
Oh yeah.
And especially if you're shooting at like ISO 100, you can pull your shadows way up, and it's like crystal clear in the shadows. When you just import it, it looks completely pitch black. And
Yeah.
that was kind of my experience back in the day when I started shooting luxury properties. I had a 5D Mark III. This is back when the Canon sensor was nowhere near the Sony. And I was like, oh my gosh, what is wrong with this Canon camera? And then I boosted the shadows. And my other luxury photographer that was shooting for me, he's like shooting with the A7R. I'm like, meh, I'm going to try that one. So then I do the same thing. I was like, my mind exploded when I saw like how crazy the details the Sony had at that time. I think all of them right now are all caught up to each other pretty much. But
They're pretty
I was
close,
just
yeah.
blown away. I was like, oh my gosh, I could create an awesome picture with just one image, you know?
Yeah. Right. Yeah,
But
and I would never do that inside, no matter what kind of camera you got. But for outside, yeah, and again, that's why I shoot a stop under, because once those highlights go, you can't get them back. But
yeah,
all these modern cameras are so good at recovering shadows.
yeah.
You know,
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, exteriors, you can get away with that all day long. Yeah, inside it is tricky. You have to know what you're doing if you're gonna go down that right, and you got to know what kind of product you're looking for. Anyways, here's a question for you. So if your business was zero, you had no contacts. I'm just trying to put somebody brand new. I'm wanting to get started in real estate photography. What would you do to get your business off the ground? It doesn't necessarily have, maybe it's something that you've learned over the years as a real estate photographer and getting customers, but what would your focus be, and how would you grow a business from scratch?
my folks. So the thing that I would do to get real estate clients, let me answer that by telling you a couple things. At least one thing that I wouldn't do is what I wouldn't do is try to get clients online. And I know that is counterintuitive to a lot of new business growth strategy nowadays with search engine optimization and all that. But real estate photography, I have found, is an extraordinarily personal business. Everything about real estate is. This is a community of people that you're trying to break into, not somebody who is looking for cheap service people. And yes, there are agents who are looking for that, but those aren't ones I think you should have anyway, for obvious
Right.
reasons. When
Yeah.
somebody cheaper comes along, they're going to go. So this is a community of people you're trying to break into, and so the best way to do that is just to get belly to belly with people. And the best way to do that when you're starting out is to go to office sales meetings. And every real estate firm that's out there, local offices, they all have sales meetings. Most of them do it weekly. They're really easy to get in on. You just call up the gatekeeper and to put you in touch with the right person. You offer to bring donuts, you can go in there and make your pitch. So when you get in there to make your pitch, and obviously you need to have a portfolio of work before you do this. You need to have something to show
Right.
when you show up. And the way that I do it is, when I show up, I will ask the room if they know what the most important part of real estate photography is. And the many times that I've done this, I have yet to have anybody answer correctly. They'll always say to sell the home, or they'll say to show the client that you're working, and the other part of that is to justify your commission, that kind of thing. And that's not it. So then what I'll do after I tell them they're wrong is I will, on whatever screen I have available to me, put up a image of a Toyota badge on a Toyota car. And I'll say, does anybody recognize this? And somebody always will. They'll say, that's Toyota. And I said, what do you think about when you see Toyota? Maybe family, reliability,
Right.
safety, affordability. These things didn't happen by accident. Toyota took a long time and a lot of effort to make sure they've crafted that, right? And this is what is the most important thing with real estate photography. It's not that you're going to sell the home, it's that you're going to get the next listing.
Right.
And when all of your images across all of your body of real estate work out there are all consistent, they're all beautiful, and then you can go into that next listing appointment and say, and here's my photographer, and this is how we market your home. That's how you're going to get more market share. That's how you're going to be more successful as a real estate agent, as a listing agent. And this pitch absolutely works. Like when I go in and do this, I've gotten at least one every single time that I've done it. Repeat client out of that. So that's what I would do if I was brand new. I haven't had to do that for a while because
Right,
my phone
right.
just rings with referrals nowadays. But I did that a fair bit when I was starting out, and it works.
Yeah, and I would argue you're probably getting a better client as well because they might like your photos and how you present yourself, and they're thinking about this is how what they should be thinking about. They should be thinking about how can I get that next listing versus how can I save $100 on photos, right? And 100% like because we're both real estate agents, we talk to real estate agents, we've been into presentations. We know that homeowners are smart these days, right? They can go on Zillow, see 100% they're going to do their homework, maybe not 100%, maybe 80% of homeowners are actually going to do some homework. They're going to be like, all right, I'm thinking about hiring this real estate agent. Let me see how they're going to present my property online. Let's take a look at their old listings. And are you proud as a real estate agent of what they're going to see? And then basically conveying that message to them. I think that's a phenomenal pitch for office visits. And yeah, I think that definitely very would
Yeah,
be.
it's the branding pitch, and part of that I'll typically tell them too is because I am a real estate agent, so I know that real estate agents, they get spammed all the time by all these firms that are gonna increase their presence, and they're going to shore up the SEO, and they're going to do this and that with their website. But the problem is all the photos that you have, they look like trash. And so when this firm comes in and they shout that from the, is that really what you want shouted from the rooftops, is all your trash real estate photos? And as I'm saying this, with the screen they have available to me, I'm showing a slideshow of my photos in the background, right? So they can make their own association.
Hey, you should walk in the room with some of their listing photos that are bad. Be like, hey, does anybody recognize these? No.
Yeah, I'm telling you, brother, that pitch, it works. It really does. Every time I've done it, I've gotten business out of it.
Well, I think honestly, that's a great actionable item that real estate photographers, new or existing, can take into their business if they're struggling to get customers. Absolutely, I agree with you. Face to face, you can build relationships. This is a relationship business. It's not necessarily a numbers. Oh, I'm going to try to do this. Yes, you can. You can get customers by all kinds of activities. You can DM them on Instagram. You can do this. You can do that. Email them or whatever. But I found that if you can build a relationship face to face, you're going to get a pretty sticky customer, right? That's likely going to hang around
Oh yeah.
and refer to you as long as you can master the customer experience, right? You can do all these activities, presentations, look at our photos, but if you drop the ball on the customer experience side of things, they're never coming back, and they're telling 3 friends to never use you. So that
Right.
especially like when you're getting started getting out of obscurity is number one. People got to know who you are and what you do, but you absolutely have to dominate your customer experience. Otherwise, you literally just did all this for nothing or for pennies. When honestly, so important, because not only are they your sales first by referring their friends and family because of the experience, man, it's absolutely critical. And I can't talk more, or I can talk for days about customer experience. We're always trying to fine tune. How can we make it better? And I think you're never going to arrive to the promised line where your customer experience is perfect. But anyways, talk to us a little bit about how you manage your customer experience, making sure that it's top notch.
I'm generous with my time. That's an easy thing to answer directly and quickly. I don't, one of the things that um, we all fall into the trap of trying to amortize our time against our income,
Right.
and say, okay, how much per hour am I making? How much am I driving? How much does fuel cost? How much am I saying? And it's like, okay, but when you start to realize that spent time is an investment, and so you aren't always going to be able to amortize that against your income today. So when you start realizing that and you say, you know what, why do I spend more time with this customer right now? It's because this customer is always going to stick with me, because this customer has more and more listings, it's because this customer is referring me to other customers that are listing higher end properties. So if I take a look at, I can think of two customers off the top of my head, two of my best ones. Um, they were never going to hear about me online, right? They're never going to search out real estate for, like, not these ones. These ones are only talking to other people. And because you've spent the time really building that relationship with people, and really, and you've been generous with your time, even with your working time, that's what set you up to be able to be in that conversation, be able to get that referral. So, like, both of these customers I'm thinking about, they're spending at least 10,000 a year on my services, each of them. And so it's like, is that worth spending a few more hours here and there? Yeah, to most people, sure.
Right.
That's a good investment. I can't advertise for that time right now. I mean, it makes my hourly rate go down, right? But it's the upside is huge.
Yeah.
You know?
It's just putting those little deposits, into building relationships
Right,
over time and
right.
hoping that, not all of them are going to pay off, but you might, there are some of those relationships you look like, man, that little relationship or that little conversation or that little message I sent turned into this massive customer, or whatever the case may be.
Right. Yeah. But I mean, but it's important to realize too, like, this is how I decided to do my business, and there are people, screaming at the screen, gonna pound their keyboard, right? You idiot, all your time is always worth, you know what I mean? It's like, that's how they want to do their thing. This is how I want to do mine.
Right. Yeah, there's definitely no right or wrong answer, just the way that you
Right.
decide to do it. So, anyways,
Yeah.
wrapping
So
up.
so my so
Yeah,
my answer is, I'm generous with my time.
yeah,
That's what I do, and it's
yeah,
worked for me.
yeah, and I think that's a great way to, just spend your time as a real estate photographer, especially in the luxury market. Anyway, so we'll finish up and talk about your YouTube channel, Loud and Clear. Talk to us a little bit about your
Yeah,
channel and what it's
you
all
know,
about.
it started, and it kind of still is this. It's something where, when I was starting out learning real estate as a real estate agent, learning real estate photography, where did I go first? Where everybody goes first. You go to YouTube. Anytime you want to learn how to do something, you go to YouTube. And so it's on YouTube that I found Rich Baum, right? That I found Nathan Cool, that I found, all these guys, the OG guys that are doing the real estate techniques and things like that. And then when I started developing my own techniques, because that's just something that experience will teach you, as you
Sure.
get your own workflows and your own techniques and stuff. I say, you know what? I'm going to give back this. And so I'm going to create a YouTube channel, and I'm going to try my best, I thought, not to run into the Rich Baums and the Nathan Cools of the world, because these guys are doing, like, technique, and they're doing, like, from square one. This is how you turn a light on. This is
Yeah.
how you point a camera. It's like that. That's not what I want to do, but I want to focus more on kind of where I was at the time. I want to focus on kind of journeyman real estate photographers. You've got your feet under you, you're starting to get busier. And so my professional experience outside of real estate photography, I think, is part of the reason it enabled me to be successful at real estate photography. And I thought, that's the value I can bring here. The value I can bring here is more business technique, how to run a real estate photography business. Since I am a real estate agent, how to speak with real estate agents,
Right.
because that's important. If you're going, these people you're going to be working with, how do you think like them? Why are they so pushy sometimes? Why does a real estate agent need you to come out today? Well, because they got in contract somewhere, and they've got a limited amount of time to get this one into contract so that deal can go through. you
Right.
know Real estate photographers, some of them don't understand that. And so these are the types of things that I want to teach on my channel. That's how it started. I've been doing it a few years. I've got, I don't know, about 1,500 subscribers or so, and that's still kind of what it is. I think these days I'm kind of more cognizant now that the viewers on my channel, the viewers on your channel, the viewers on anybody's channels out there talking about real estate photography, um, most of them are beginners, or pretty early on in their journey. And so a lot like the types of questions you've been asking during this interview. Our audience, I think, are people who are not that experienced with it. So I'm thinking, okay, maybe I will start doing a little bit more technique, but I don't take it too seriously yet. It's just a way of me giving back. If it ever makes any money, then awesome.
Yeah.
If not, that's cool too.
Yeah.
It's not what I do my day job.
I think I make like $100 a month from YouTube ads, and it's woo.
I don't think I'm even doing
You're
that.
not,
I don't
yeah,
think I'm
I'm
even
like,
doing
you're not
that
gonna
yet.
make.
So I only get a check every few months because I think you have to make 100 for them to send
Right.
you
They all have to add up. You're like, thanks, YouTube. But awesome. Well, thanks, Brian, for
Absolutely.
coming on and spending your time and on this interview. And funny enough, we actually met on the interview on last Sunday, so it was pretty cool
Yeah.
just to kind of interact in the chat. So, anyways, leave
Yeah,
comments in the
it was
chat.
probably a snarky comment from
Yeah.
me. Like, that's stupid. Yeah.
Awesome, Brian. Well, thank you so much, and we'll link to your channel. And thank you so much for sharing your journey, as well as some great insights on, especially the thing that I got out of is, how to interact with agents during presentations. And I think you gave some great advice for people just starting in the business of something that they can take and run with and actually get customers, as long as they're willing to put in the work and schedule and bring donuts and schedule the or the sales meetings with these offices. So
I hope so, because I think that in my area, there's room enough for all of us,
Yeah.
So real estate photographers, we are so much better as teammates than we are as competitors.
that is true.
So for that reason, I'm just going to keep on doing what I do and teaching what I teach.
Sweet. Well, I appreciate your time, Brian, and we'll see you guys on the next one.